Hey, Kristen, my name is Daniel. I'm actually starting a website inspired somewhat by you, but more of, I think, people like you. That concept of the Christian alt-right, people who are willing to say science is real, but God isn't lesser than it, and allowing us to kind of see the world through a Christian worldview, and not trying to find the right harmony between the two, but discovering how to be in the world, but not of it. I just want to say props to you, man. That's awesome. So you were 260 subscribers when I saw you first. You're 262 now. It's slow, but it's getting there. But I saw you had a long break too. Anyways, on to the video response portion. You specifically tackling the refugee crisis, or crisis, and the whole concept of this with refugees, whether they're going to be legal or illegal, how we feel about it. And kudos for tackling such a tough topic, especially in within the I think the worldview of Christianity, and how people kind of view us as pacifistic. Which, by the way, you mentioned the feminization of Christendom. You gotta talk about that, man. That is a big one. It isn't this pacifistic kind of concept. Even the Crusades. Side tangent. The Crusades. It wasn't Christians are evil and Christians want to dominate the world. We would love to have mutual agreement of Christ's sovereignty, right? That would be great and ideal, but we're not going to do it aggressively, such as Muhammad's final words, right? Kill all the Christians and Jews. But, I think realistically, it was a retaliatory response to, it's kind of redundant, it was a retaliation to the Muslims' aggressive movement to the Crusade. But today is nothing like that, right? So today is, we got to let them in because of equality and diversity and people deserve and all these different things. Well, okay, but the role of the government is to maintain our freedoms, right? To uphold and make sure that they're there, not to continue to create more. And as new things come about, they're like, we got to tweak and work our way around that. Yes, a government needs to be somewhat alive, but that's why the documentation, from the origin of it is somewhat living. But as a Christian, we have the living word, and it's a weird and it's difficult, but with prayer and time and investigation, I think people like you who are out there saying, "Hey, this is probably what it's like. Let's talk about it," and having the open discussion, I think, is definitely key. But anyways, for us to allow in people legally, or rather, okay, let's assume for the illegal example, right? So you have people coming in, it's too many, and it's white genocide, I'm hearing it called. I'm going to use that word for conversation's sake. So you have this going on illegally, and then you have it legally too by the promotion through social institutions who aren't a lot of people, but are louder voices, right? Because of the kind of the owning the academia and the sort. But without getting into that, you do have this concept of white genocide going on, and let's say that we had most extreme vetting. And so that's what we're hearing a lot of people kind of compromising, coming up with this idea that, we'll vet them. We'll take only the ones who really want to be on American soil. And I agree, that's a good thing to do. But you have to kind of keep in mind that by doing that, you're taking the best people of one particular part of the world, which might be lesser and the, total counts of white, and you're putting them into the white area. And so they might get along. They might really blend well in the white social constructs, right? It's not a race thing, as in the whites are better than the blacks, etc. It's whites are different than blacks, are different than Asians, are different, etc., etc. And it's nothing about better or worse. It's about different, and it's about understanding that. And if we can do these extreme vettings, and we take the people that will fit, that will, I think, complement this society and thrive in it even. Those kind of people, we're taking the best out of their area. So now we don't really have a, for lack of a better term, ambassador to these races, to these regions and nations of predominantly other races. So now we're as America with all the best and the best, and everybody else doesn't. I feel like that is the opposite of equality. But because we don't want to have these real conversations about race, we're not going to get to these real answers, these real ways of tackling things. And I've heard it said many times, and it's kind of coming up again in popularity since Dave Rubin mentioned it on a recent interview with Andrew Klavan, this idea of viewing the world as it is and not as you'd like it to be. Anyways, again, awesome content. Please talk about the feminization of Christendom when you get a chance, unless you've got a long list of other topics, which is a plethora to talk about in this sort of Christian alt-right world. I'll leave a comment when my site's up. I'd love to have your opinion if you've got time to do it. Otherwise, man, you've got my license support until then. So keep it up.